This is an Industry Today webcast produced by Industrial Info Resources of Sugar Land, Texas, bringing you the latest trends in the industrial market, providing the scoop on companies that are leading the way with innovation, new technology, and services that keep industry growing and moving forward. Hi, this is Peggy Tuck, your host for this segment of Industry Today. Today we're going to shine our guest spotlight on a company that's right here in the Houston area. It's called PMI Specialist. And joining me in studio, I have Steve Hulsey. He is the president, and Chris Myers, who is a senior alloy analyst. Gentlemen, welcome today. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to spend some time with us.
Thanks for having us.
Steve, let's start with you. You're the president of this company, so let's talk about PMI Specialist and exactly what you do.
PMI is an industry acronym. It stands for Positive Material Identification. It's come about because people are kind of worried about what they're getting. When metallurgical engineers, specify a certain alloy for use in a unit, no one used to really give a second thought to it, but over the years they've come to realize that misselection or incorrect selection of materials can lead to accidents in the plant, which can translate into lost lives and lost dollars. And so the verification of that purchase has become important. The anagram PMI, Positive Material Identification, means that we verified that when you asked for 316, it actually was given to you. And so that's what's come about in the last 30 years. It's kind of become a phenomenon. We've been doing this 20 years. And it's come from being a percentage of what a person buys to 100% of what they buy. And when engineering specifies it, whether it's pressure related or even erosion related, you see a PMI requirement that comes along with it, where it used to be a verbal, hey, we'll do PMI on it. Now it's become an engineered specification where you have to read it thoroughly and understand what it means to be able to do it correctly.
Are there certain industries that this might be specific to, or does it go through a wide variety of industries?
Petrochem's the driver, whether it's in the plant, in the refinery, or out in the drilling area, or out in the rigs. Any of those areas are really the drivers for this. You have side businesses like the geology people will need it. The building people will need it. Even the DOT people will do it for antique buildings. But the real driver, where most of the work comes from, is the refineries and chemical plants, the oil companies.
Okay, Chris Myers, now you're the senior alloy analyst. What is PMI and what is it going to really tell me?
Well, PMI, like Steve touched on, is Positive Material Identification. It's the evaluation of elements and physical characteristics of the alloy. Our machines, once we touch it to the alloy, it breaks down the chemical composition, and it'll tell you the percentage of stainless, the percentage of chrome, nickel. It's a lot of chemistry. And from those ranges, the numbers that we get off the machines, we have ranges that, like Steve said, 316 has a certain percentage of nickel, moly, and chrome that it has to have. And from that, we can tell you, yes, the supplier sent you 316, it sent you 304. And if we're not sure what it is, we research it and have the database and in the everything you need, the backing to tell you exactly what you have.
Steve, when do you really need this in a business situation?
Most of the decision making is done upper level, not in the administrating or the process side of it, but on the liability side of it. It's driven by the lawyers. Everybody can lose from it, and the lawyers recognize the liability for the person with the deepest pockets is the greatest. Exxon has really deep pockets. If a gasket blows out in a unit and it hits a guy in the eye, you owe him for his lost eye. You probably owe his family for a little bit of lost leadership and fatherhood and providerhood, and you may even owe for a loss of maybe his child's future, his education. You owe him, and that's a finite amount. When they get to court and they decide how much they owe him, that's easy to do, unless it turns out that Exxon could have prevented this accident by doing a PMI program that prevented this 304 gasket from going where a 316 gasket should have gone, and then it becomes negligence. And when that happens, the lawyers get us together and they say, we don't really need to go to court. We can settle this out of court, and it's going to be a lot more than it would have been otherwise. And so that's where the deep pockets come from, and that's where even Exxon has a limit to their deep pockets. You have that 1,000 times, and you've got a really big loss. Unsustainable financial loss is what the PMI program can prevent.
And of course, in this business environment that we're dealing with now, with plants and, cutbacks and whatnot, the bottom line is so much more important to them.
One catch on a PMI program can save you an unplanned outage. An unplanned outage might cost you a couple $1 million.
I'm sure there are other people in this industry that maybe supply the same service, but tell me what it is that really sets you apart from the competition.
It would have to be our training. Our knowledge that we have before we go in the field. We go through a series of classrooms before you're even sent out into the field. Then you have on-the-job training with one of the senior analysts like myself. We go out with a wide variety of knowledge and backing, books that tell us, if we run into something we're not sure what it is, we can research it. We have a ASTM database that will break everything down. Steve's at the phone 24/7. We can call him anytime, night or day. Hey, I've ran into this. The machines will ID and tell you what it thinks it is, but the machines can be tricked, and they're tricked all the time. Sometimes they'll say no match. A lot of the other companies out there will leave it at that, and they'll hand the numbers to the customer and say, I'm not sure what this is. My machine didn't ID it. And if they're doing that, like Steve said, it's just you're waiting for an accident to happen. You have to know what you're looking for, the percentages of nickel, chrome, moly, everything to tungsten to carbon, to make sure that they have what they want. The studies have shown that the largest losses in refineries are piping issues, and it's all due to PMI. We found stuff misstamped from the factories. All these fittings come with material test reports that'll say that it's 304, it's 5 chrome, and in the 9 years I've been with Steve, I can't tell you how many pieces we've found that were stamped 5 chrome and they're 1/4 chrome, and they've passed through other PMI processes, and it's something that you can't miss because lives are at stake.
Steve, is PMI all that you do?
We do a number of other things. Some things that are related, anything metallurgical, we feel is our business. We like to be thought of as a mobile metallurgical services company as opposed to PMI, but PMI is a big driver for us. It's a big part of it. We measure ferrite in stainless steel welds. There shouldn't be any in stainless steel or 300 series stainless, but there needs to be in the welds. And so they require there to be a little bit and then limit it to how much we measure that. We do hardness testing out in the field. Hardness testing is looked upon condescendingly sometimes because guys think anybody can do it, and they can, but not anybody can do it right. And when you do it right, you find out a lot about your material. The strength is directly related to the hardness. We ferroxyl testing, they call it ferrocyanide testing, where you check for the presence of free iron. We do that out in the field under OSHA guidelines, OSHA requirements for safety. Copper sulfate testing, analysis of carbon steels, regrading or grading of old carbon steels that have been in the pipeline. Duke Energy, for instance, is a customer of ours. For 12 years we've been going out on pipelines that they bought, no documentation. If they don't have documentation, they have to go to default level for their material grade, and that limits them to their thickness. It requires a higher thickness because they have a lower grade material unless they can prove otherwise. They would have to shut the whole pipeline down if they can't prove that it's higher grade. They're pretty sure it was because it was built that way. But if you can't prove it out nowadays, you can't use it. And so that's been a kind of an interesting sideline for us. We used to joke about, I wish they would have us test carbon steel. And we knew they never would, but it turns out there's more failures in carbon steel than there is in alloy steel. And most of the time it's due to the way it was built. We can detect that now with the on-site equipment we have. We always knew we could in the lab, but we couldn't do it out in the field because the equipment just wasn't good enough. The boom in computers, the ability to divide time into millionths of a second, has made it possible to make instruments that are much more accurate and much more reliable.
Very interesting stuff. How can someone get more information about PMI Specialist?
They can go to our website or they can give us a call. And we'd love to talk to anybody who wants to talk about metal and metallurgy. It's always fun to get a couple of guys together and listen to them. We have another side, a lab side, where we have a scanning electron microscope. We hired a PhD about 1.5 years ago to put this together. And we've just rolled that out as a state-of-the-art scanning electron microscope. When you look at a failure of an alloy, the closer you look, the better chance you have of getting it right. Electron microscopes go down to 100,000 magnification.
Wow.
Yeah, almost to the atomic level. So you see things that are not possible to see otherwise.
Okay, that website, folks, is www.pmispecialist, that's a plural, .com, pmispecialist.com. Or, as Steve said, you can give them a call at 281-837-1048. Steve Halsey is the president of PMI Specialist, and Chris Myers is a senior alloy analyst. They've both been my guests today, and gentlemen, thank you so much. Continued success with your company.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For Industry Today, this is Peggy Tuck. Be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and on the web at www.industrialinfo.com.